King Charles arrives at Buckingham Palace with royals. Families with children sat on the sidewalks, waving small Union Jack flags and holding homemade banners. Tourists with cameras hung around their necks, trying to capture every moment they could. The streets were unusually busy, not with the regular hustle of London traffic, but with a quiet, expectant energy, as if the entire city were collectively holding its breath. News of King Charles's arrival at Buckingham Palace had spread quickly, and many felt honored to be part of the moment. The palace itself looked grand and imposing, its tall gates and stone walls gleaming under the winter sun. The gardens surrounding the palace were immaculately maintained, with neatly trimmed hedges and colorful flower beds that seemed to have been planted just for the occasion. Flags were flying high, the royal standard fluttering proudly in the wind, signaling to all that something historic was about to happen. People whispered to each other in small clusters, speculating about what they might see. Some talked about the king himself, imagining his appearance, his voice, and how he would interact with the crowd. Others focused on the other members of the royal family, curious about who would accompany him and what their roles would be. Every few minutes, someone would point excitedly down the road, convinced they saw the first signs of the royal convoy approaching. Children squealed in delight, and parents tried to keep them calm while secretly sharing their own excitement. Reporters and camera crews had arrived long before the crowd. They set up tripods and microphones, checking angles and lighting. Some stood on ladders to get a better view over the crowd, while others moved back and forth, communicating urgently into headsets. The sense of urgency and careful planning in their movements contrasted with the leisurely curiosity of the crowd, highlighting the importance of the event. Everything had to be perfect, every angle captured, every reaction recorded. Security personnel were also in place, their presence reassuring yet unobtrusive. They moved quietly among the crowd, scanning faces and ensuring safety. Their eyes were sharp and attentive, but they smiled occasionally at children who waved shyly in their direction. It was a delicate balance, maintaining strict security while not disturbing the celebratory atmosphere that had formed naturally among the onlookers. As the time drew closer, the crowd became more animated. People adjusted their positions, some climbing slightly higher spots to get a better view. Street performers nearby had started entertaining the waiting audience with music and dance, adding to the festive mood. The smell of freshly baked pastries from nearby cafes mixed with the crisp London air, creating a comforting and lively ambience. Birds occasionally flew overhead, as if curious about the gathering below. The anticipation was almost tangible. Conversations grew quieter as the first faint sounds of approaching vehicles echoed through the streets. A hush fell over the crowd, broken only by the distant ringing of bells and the occasional cheer from someone spotting a familiar figure. Cameras were lifted higher, phones were readied, and eyes turned toward the gates, straining to see the first glimpse of the royal party. Inside Buckingham Palace, preparations were equally meticulous. Staff moved efficiently through the halls, arranging flowers, checking the condition of carpets, and ensuring that everything looked flawless. The chandeliers sparkled brilliantly, reflecting the soft light of the morning sun, while polished surfaces gleamed as if in anticipation of the important guests. Even the smallest details, from the placement of chairs to the arrangement of table settings, were carefully considered. Every corner of the palace seemed to hold a quiet sense of excitement, as if the building itself were aware of the historical moment it was about to host. The palace gates opened slowly, and the first car in the royal convoy came into view. A cheer rose from the crowd, excited but respectful. The king's car was followed by several others, each carrying members of the royal family. The vehicles moved with precision, escorted by guards on horseback who rode elegantly alongside, their polished uniforms shining in the sunlight. The sound of horse hooves against the pavement added a ceremonial rhythm, making the procession feel both historic and grand. People in the crowd waved energetically, calling out greetings, while others clapped and cheered in unison. The king and the royals, seated in the cars, could be seen acknowledging the crowd with polite waves and gentle smiles. Their presence, calm yet commanding, seemed to inspire a sense of unity and shared excitement among everyone present. Children pointed in awe, grandparents whispered memories of past royal events, and strangers exchanged smiles, bonded by the rare experience of witnessing history in motion. Photographers and reporters documented every moment carefully. The cameras clicked repeatedly, capturing expressions, gestures, and reactions. Television crews moved quickly to get live shots, their cameras zooming in to show both the crowd and the royals. Each frame seemed to tell a story, capturing the mix of excitement, pride, and admiration that filled the streets. The event, while formal and ceremonial, also felt deeply personal for those who had come to witness it. As the convoy reached the palace gates, the ceremonial guards presented arms, their movements precise and rehearsed. The sound of trumpets filled the air, adding a sense of grandeur and dignity to the moment. The king's car came to a slow halt, and he stepped out first, carefully maintaining a balance of approachability and regal presence. The crowd responded with cheers and applause, and for a few brief moments, there was a shared feeling of joy, respect, and anticipation that connected everyone present. The other royals followed, each stepping out gracefully, acknowledging the crowd with waves and smiles. Their presence added layers to the event, familiar faces of a family who had long been part of the public consciousness, now gathered together for a historic moment. The interplay between tradition, ceremony, and public engagement created a unique atmosphere, one that was formal yet warm, distant yet intimate. Throughout the gathering, the mood was celebratory but also reflective. Many in the crowd had memories of past royal events, moments when they had watched history unfold on television or in person. Now, seeing the king and his family arrive in reality, they felt a deeper connection to the monarchy and to the traditions that had shaped their country. The day was not just about ceremony. It was about shared experience, memory, and the continuation of a story that had lasted generations. Even as the king and royals moved inside the palace, the crowd remained outside, buzzing with conversation, exchanging photos, and recounting what they had just seen. The event had begun with anticipation, but by the time the first part of the ceremony was complete, it had transformed into something more profound, a collective experience that would be remembered by those who were present for the rest of their lives. In those moments, it was clear that the arrival of King Charles at Buckingham Palace was not just a political or ceremonial event. It was a celebration of history, culture, and community. The streets outside, alive with excitement and wonder, reflected the pride and admiration that people felt for their monarchy. And as the day unfolded, it was certain that the memory of this morning, filled with anticipation and emotion, would linger long after the crowd had dispersed, leaving a lasting impression on everyone who had been part of it. The royal convoy moved slowly down the wide, historic streets leading to Buckingham Palace. Each car glided smoothly, perfectly timed and escorted by guards on horseback who kept a steady rhythm. The horses' hooves clicked sharply against the cobblestones, echoing in the crisp morning air. Their polished coats and disciplined movements added to the sense of ceremony, giving the procession an almost cinematic quality. People lining the streets watched in awe, many holding their breath, as if not wanting to miss a single moment. In the lead car sat King Charles, upright and composed, his eyes occasionally scanning the crowd. He seemed calm, but those watching closely could see the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This moment was more than a public appearance. It was a historic step in a life of service. Beside him, a trusted aide handed him a carefully folded document, perhaps a reminder of the schedule or a list of important names. The king nodded, smiling politely when a young child waved a small flag and shouted a cheerful greeting. The other cars carried senior members of the royal family, each maintaining their own presence with grace. Some waved to the crowd, while others focused quietly on the road ahead. Every so often, they exchanged brief glances or whispered words to one another, a mixture of private family communication and public performance. Observers in the crowd noted these subtle interactions, guessing at the conversations or the bonds shared between these public figures. As the convoy approached the palace gates, anticipation reached its peak. The crowd pressed forward, trying to catch a glimpse of the king and the royals. Phones were lifted high, cameras clicked incessantly, and excited whispers turned into audible cheers. Street performers nearby paused for a moment, acknowledging the significance of the event with polite bows before resuming their music. Vendors selling souvenirs and snacks noticed the sudden surge of energy in the crowd and began moving quickly to meet the demand. their presence adding to the vibrant, festive atmosphere. The gates of Buckingham Palace, tall and ornate, slowly opened to welcome the royals. A hush fell over the crowd as the first car in the convoy came into view. It moved deliberately, almost ceremoniously, as if respecting the historic surroundings and the hundreds of eyes watching from outside. The guards at the gates, dressed in their traditional red uniforms and tall black bearskin hats, stood rigid and motionless, their faces expressionless but their posture commanding. Their stillness contrasted sharply with the movement and excitement of the crowd, creating a powerful visual of tradition meeting the public's energy. As King Charles stepped out of the car, a cheer erupted. He moved with measured steps, careful to maintain both dignity and approachability. His gaze swept across the crowd, and he lifted his hand in a gentle wave. Children in the front rows squealed in delight, some jumping up and down with excitement. Parents pointed out their favorite royals, explaining who they were and sharing stories from history books or previous royal events. The king's presence seemed to create a bridge between generations, connecting the curiosity of youth with the memories and admiration of older spectators. The other royals followed gracefully. Each one had a distinct aura, shaped by personality and public perception. Some smiled warmly, engaging with the crowd in small, friendly gestures. Others maintained a calm, reserved presence, reflecting the seriousness of the occasion. Together, they formed a tableau of tradition and family, a living representation of a monarchy that had endured centuries. Observers noted the subtle details, the way hands were folded, the way eyes met the crowd, and even the slight nods exchanged among family members. These small actions, almost invisible to casual onlookers, carried weight for those paying close attention. Photographers and media crews were busy capturing every angle. Tripods clicked into place, microphones adjusted, and camera lenses zoomed in on expressions, gestures, and reactions. Every smile, every wave, every glance was recorded for history. Reporters moved quickly through the crowd, interviewing witnesses and documenting the atmosphere. Live television broadcasts brought the scene into homes across the country and the world, allowing people who could not be present to feel the excitement and gravity of the moment. The ceremonial guards stepped forward, presenting arms in precise unison. Their movements were flawless, honed through years of training and practice. The trumpets sounded, their bold notes echoing across the open space in front of the palace. The combination of music, disciplined movements, and the formal presence of the king and the royals created a powerful sense of tradition and ceremony. Even those in the crowd who had never been interested in royal events felt a sense of awe, witnessing history unfold in real time. As the king walked toward the palace entrance, he paused occasionally to acknowledge individuals in the crowd. A soldier in uniform saluted, and King Charles returned the gesture with a subtle nod. A small group of elderly citizens waved from the front row, holding photographs of past monarchs. The king smiled at them, a quiet gesture of respect for both the present and the past. Children waved tiny flags, shouting words of excitement, and the king's calm, steady presence seemed to inspire a mixture of pride, admiration, and joy in those watching. The palace doors opened to welcome the royals inside. Staff members who had spent hours preparing for this exact moment stepped aside with precise timing. Inside, the halls were bright and immaculate, every surface polished, every flower arranged with care. The chandeliers sparkled, reflecting the soft sunlight that streamed through the tall windows. Each room seemed to hold a sense of anticipation, as if the palace itself were participating in the event. Courtiers and aides moved quietly, ready to guide the royals through their schedule with efficiency and discretion. While the public saw only the grandeur and ceremonial aspects, there was a quiet human side to the scene. King Charles and his family were aware of the significance of their appearance. Each smile, each wave, and each gesture carried weight. They were not just walking into a palace, they were stepping into history, representing a legacy that stretched back centuries. Even small actions mattered, the way hands were folded, the way eyes met the crowd, the way each member interacted with one another. Every detail contributed to the public's perception and to the ongoing story of the monarchy. Outside, the crowd remained fully engaged. People whispered excitedly to one another, sharing impressions and observations. Many took pictures, capturing memories that they would later show to friends and family. Children pointed out their favorite royals, parents explained the history behind certain traditions, and strangers exchanged smiles, united by the shared experience. The atmosphere was electric yet respectful, a rare balance that made the day memorable for everyone present. The arrival also highlighted the logistics and coordination required for such an event. Security personnel monitored every angle, ready to respond to any unforeseen situation. Media crews communicated constantly, ensuring live coverage ran smoothly. Palace staff coordinated movements inside, anticipating each step of the royals' schedule. The seamless execution, though largely invisible to the public, was critical to the success of the event. It was a dance of precision, tradition, and public engagement, executed flawlessly for the world to witness. As King Charles and his family moved further into the palace, the crowd erupted into one final cheer, applauding both the royals and the moment itself. The combination of grandeur, history, and personal connection created a lasting impression. People would talk about this day for years, sharing stories of where they stood, what they saw, and how they felt. For many, it was more than a ceremony. It was a chance to witness history and feel connected to a legacy that had shaped their country for generations. In those moments, the significance of the event became clear. It was not just about pomp and ceremony. It was about continuity, tradition, and the human stories behind the monarchy. The public's excitement, the careful choreography of the royals, and the quiet efficiency of the palace staff all combined to create a scene that was both grand and deeply personal. It was a reminder that history is not just written in books. It is lived, moment by moment, through the people who participate in it. By the time King Charles and the royal family disappeared inside the palace doors, the crowd slowly began to disperse, carrying with them memories and stories to share. They had witnessed a historic arrival, a moment that combined tradition, duty, and public engagement in a way that few people experience firsthand. The excitement lingered in the streets, in conversations, and in the photos and videos that captured every detail. For those who were present, the day would be remembered as a rare and special connection to history, a shared experience that brought together people of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life. Once King Charles and the royal family entered Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere inside was unlike anything the public could see from outside. The grand halls, polished to perfection, seemed to radiate a quiet elegance. Every detail, from the glimmering chandeliers to the carefully arranged flowers, reflected meticulous planning and centuries of tradition. Palace staff moved silently but efficiently, guiding the royals through the rooms, ensuring that every step followed the precise schedule. It was a moment of both ceremony and intimate family connection, a balance that the palace had hosted countless times over generations. The first room they entered was a long, stately hallway lined with portraits of past monarchs. King Charles paused briefly, his hand resting lightly on the velvet rope that separated the hall from the main walking path. He looked up at the portraits, his eyes reflecting respect and a quiet sense of continuity. Each painting seemed to tell a story, reminding him and the observers of the legacy he now carried. The walls were painted in soft, elegant tones, highlighting the intricate frames and the historical significance of every piece. Observers noted how the king's presence, though calm, filled the space with a sense of dignity and purpose. The other royals followed, each moving with careful grace. Some whispered to each other, their voices soft and measured, while others walked in contemplative silence. Their interactions, though subtle, showed a combination of familiarity and the awareness of the ceremonial role they were performing. Every glance and gesture was deliberate, reflecting both the personal bonds between them and their public responsibilities. Staff members discreetly ensured that everyone's movements aligned with the carefully planned itinerary, maintaining a sense of order without drawing attention to themselves. The palace was decorated with flowers arranged in exquisite patterns. Roses, lilies, and tulips added vibrant splashes of color against the soft hues of the walls. The scent of fresh flowers mingled subtly with the polished wood and marble, creating an atmosphere that was at once luxurious and inviting. Every vase and arrangement had been placed thoughtfully, designed to enhance the experience for the royals and to reflect the grandeur of the palace. King Charles, walking carefully along the red-carpeted floors, acknowledged the beauty with a quiet nod, appreciating the effort that had gone into preparing the environment for this special day. A reception area had been prepared for the royals and selected dignitaries. Here, tables were arranged with fine linens, crystal glassware, and delicate china. Small cards indicated seating arrangements, ensuring that every guest was positioned thoughtfully. The king and his family were greeted warmly by close family members and advisors, each offering polite words and small gestures of respect. Conversations were calm and measured, blending personal warmth with the formal nature of the occasion. Observers who had access to the palace noted the way the royals balanced friendliness with ceremony, creating an atmosphere that was both welcoming and dignified. As the reception continued, King Charles took moments to speak with individual family members. These interactions, though brief, were filled with a sense of connection. He listened attentively, nodding and smiling, offering words of encouragement or gentle reminders when appropriate. The family members responded in kind, some with quiet laughter, others with thoughtful nods. These private moments, invisible to the public, revealed the human side of the royals, showing that beneath the ceremonial duties, they were a family bound by history, tradition, and shared experience. Staff moved quietly around the room, attending to every detail. Servers discreetly offered refreshments, ensuring that the guests had what they needed without interrupting conversations. Courtiers observed the flow of events, ready to adjust seating or guide the royals as necessary. The smooth operation of the reception, though largely unnoticed by those outside, was crucial to maintaining the dignity and flow of the event. Every movement, every placement, was the result of careful planning and coordination, a testament to the dedication of the palace staff. Throughout the reception, subtle gestures of history and tradition were evident. The arrangement of flowers, the choice of music, and even the placement of furniture reflected centuries of ceremonial practice. King Charles, aware of these details, moved with quiet appreciation, acknowledging the legacy of the palace while performing his role as the present monarch. His calm demeanor reassured those around him, creating an environment that balanced the grandeur of royalty with the personal warmth of family and familiarity. At one point, the royals paused to observe a ceremonial item on display, a historical crown, meticulously polished and displayed under a glass case. King Charles studied it with interest, his expression reflecting reverence for the history it represented. Close family members exchanged brief comments, their voices soft, as if sharing a private understanding of the crown's significance. Staff ensured that the display remained pristine, unobtrusive yet perfectly presented for both the royals and any dignitaries present. This small moment highlighted the interplay between tradition, symbolism, and personal reflection that defined the day. The walls of the palace were adorned not only with portraits, but also with tapestries and artifacts from centuries past. Each piece carried a story, and the royals, guided by knowledgeable staff, took time to appreciate these treasures. King Charles paused before several of the tapestries, studying the scenes depicted and acknowledging their historical context. The other royals followed, some discussing the artistry quietly among themselves, others observing in respectful silence. These moments, though understated, contributed to the sense of continuity and the deep connection between the monarchy and its history. In addition to the formal reception and historical displays, private family spaces were also part of the itinerary. King Charles and close family members had the opportunity to share quiet moments, offering support and reassurance as they navigated the ceremonial responsibilities. These interactions, though subtle, provided a glimpse into the human side of royalty. They reminded everyone that behind the formal attire, polished floors, and historical artifacts, these were people experiencing a moment of significance together. Staff members ensured that every detail, from lighting to seating, was perfect. The chandeliers cast a soft glow across the polished floors, highlighting the elegance of the surroundings without overshadowing the royals themselves. Subtle arrangements of fresh flowers added color and life to the room, enhancing the atmosphere without distracting from the ceremony. Every element of the environment was designed to complement the event, creating a seamless blend of tradition, beauty, and functionality. Throughout the day, King Charles remained composed and attentive, His interactions, though brief at times, were meaningful. He listened carefully, smiled warmly, and acknowledged the presence of family and staff alike. Observers noted that his demeanor combined both the weight of responsibility and the genuine warmth of personal connection. These qualities helped create an atmosphere that was simultaneously formal and approachable, reinforcing the balance that defined the monarchy. The reception also included moments of reflection. King Charles, standing briefly by a window overlooking the palace gardens, appeared thoughtful. The gardens, meticulously maintained, stretched out like a green carpet, offering a serene backdrop to the historical setting. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting patterns across the polished floors and creating a warm, inviting environment. It was a moment of calm amid the ceremonial duties, a chance to absorb the significance of the day and the history surrounding it. As the reception drew to a close, the royals moved through the palace with quiet confidence. Each step, each gesture was deliberate, reflecting both their public role and their personal understanding of the event's significance. Staff guided them seamlessly, ensuring that the flow of movement was smooth and dignified. Observers could sense the care and precision that went into every aspect of the day, from the arrangement of flowers to the timing of each interaction. Finally, the royals prepared to move to the next part of the day, where public engagement awaited. As they transitioned from the private halls of the palace to the balcony and ceremonial spaces outside, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The calm, reflective mood of the reception gave way to anticipation and excitement for the public appearance. Yet even in this transition, the grace, dignity, and attention to detail that characterized the palace experience remained evident. In those moments, the balance between tradition, ceremony, and personal connection became clear. Inside Buckingham Palace, King Charles and the royal family navigated history and duty with poise and mindfulness. The careful orchestration of events, combined with personal warmth and reflection, created a day that would be remembered not only for its grandeur, but also for its human moments. Every glance, every smile, and every quiet gesture contributed to a narrative that intertwined the past, present, and future of the monarchy. By the end of the palace reception, it was clear that this was more than a ceremonial appearance. It was a celebration of history, family, and the ongoing legacy of the monarchy. Observers, both inside and outside the palace, recognized the significance of the day. For the royals, it was a moment of connection between themselves, their history, and the public. For the public, it was a rare glimpse into a world of tradition, elegance, and human experience that few had the privilege to witness firsthand. The moment had finally arrived for King Charles and the royal family to appear before the public. After the quiet elegance of the palace halls and the warm yet formal reception, they moved toward the grand balcony that overlooked the front courtyard of Buckingham Palace. Inside, a sense of calm anticipation lingered, but outside, the crowd had grown even larger. Thousands of people lined the streets, waving flags, holding banners, and craning their necks to get the best view. Excitement hummed in the air like electricity, and everyone seemed to sense the historic significance of what was about to happen. The balcony itself was majestic, framed by tall columns and decorated with subtle floral arrangements. It had witnessed countless historic moments, and today would be no exception. As King Charles stepped onto the balcony, he did so with measured grace. He paused briefly, allowing the crowd to catch sight of him and acknowledging them with a gentle wave. Behind him, other members of the royal family appeared, each presenting a calm and dignified presence. Their coordinated movement gave the impression of unity and purpose, signaling that this was a moment both ceremonial and deeply personal. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, a sound that seemed to carry across the entire area. Children waved their small flags, shouting in excitement, while adults clapped and cheered in unison. The energy was contagious, and even those who had initially been quiet found themselves swept up in the enthusiasm. People exchanged smiles with strangers around them, sharing a collective sense of pride and wonder. The atmosphere was electric yet respectful, a rare combination that made the day feel truly special. King Charles raised his hand in acknowledgement, nodding slightly as he scanned the crowd. His expression was calm, composed, yet warm. He seemed to recognize the significance of the moment, not only as a public appearance but as a connection with the people. For the royals, these gestures were not just formalities. They were a way to communicate respect, gratitude, and shared history. Behind the smiles and waves lay a subtle understanding that each gesture had weight, each action contributed to the story of the monarchy. The other members of the royal family followed suit. Some waved with bright smiles, engaging directly with the crowd, while others maintained a composed and thoughtful presence. Together, they created a sense of harmony and continuity, reflecting both the personal bond of the family and the centuries-old traditions they represented. Observers noted the balance between warmth and formality, a delicate equilibrium that made the royals approachable yet dignified. Every movement, every gesture, seemed intentional, reinforcing the connection between the monarchy and the people they served. Photographers and reporters worked tirelessly to capture the moment. Cameras clicked repeatedly, capturing expressions, gestures, and the reactions of the crowd below. Television crews broadcast live, sharing the scene with viewers across the country and around the world. Every smile, every wave, every cheer was documented, creating a lasting record of the event. The media coverage was not merely for spectacle. It was a way to share the significance of the day with those who could not be present, allowing millions to experience the historic moment virtually. The balcony appearance was not only about visibility, it was also about communication. King Charles addressed the crowd, offering a short but heartfelt acknowledgement. His words were measured, simple, and genuine, expressing gratitude for the support of the public and a commitment to service. Though brief, his speech carried depth, resonating with both the immediate audience and those watching remotely. The tone struck a balance between formality and approachability, reflecting the dual role of the monarch as both a leader and a member of a long-standing family tradition. As the speech concluded, the crowd responded with cheers, applause, and even spontaneous chants of encouragement. The energy was palpable, a mixture of admiration, pride, and excitement. Children jumped up and down, waving their flags, while adults clapped in rhythmic unison. The sense of shared experience was profound. For a moment, strangers were united by a single event, sharing joy and respect for the monarchy. Observers noted that these collective reactions were as much a part of the ceremony as the formal actions of the royals themselves. Security personnel maintained their watchful presence, ensuring the safety of both the royals and the public. Their movements were precise and coordinated, yet unobtrusive. They blended into the background, allowing the focus to remain on the royal family while providing a reassuring sense of safety. Guards on horseback and plainclothes officers moved strategically among the crowd, ready to respond to any unforeseen situation. Their professionalism allowed the public to enjoy the moment fully, knowing that the necessary precautions were in place. The royals took time to acknowledge individuals in the crowd as well. King Charles nodded to an elderly couple waving from the front, while children holding hand-painted signs received brief smiles and gestures of recognition. These personal interactions, though small, made a significant impact. They showed that even amid a large-scale public event, the royals were attentive to the individuals who came to witness history. Observers noted these details, realizing that the monarchy's power was complemented by its ability to connect with the people in meaningful ways. The visual spectacle of the balcony appearance was enhanced by ceremonial elements. Flags fluttered in the gentle breeze, adding color and movement to the scene. The palace itself, with its stately columns and ornate architecture, provided a dramatic backdrop. Trumpets and ceremonial music played softly in the background, adding rhythm and a sense of tradition. The combination of sound, movement, and visual splendor created a moment that was both emotional and memorable, capturing the attention of everyone present and everyone watching from afar. Throughout the appearance, King Charles remained aware of the significance of his role. His posture, gestures, and expressions conveyed a balance of authority, respect, and warmth. Observers could see the thoughtfulness behind each action, the careful consideration of how to honor tradition while engaging the public meaningfully. The other members of the royal family mirrored this approach, demonstrating unity and cohesion. Together, they presented an image of stability and continuity, reinforcing the historical and cultural importance of the monarchy. As the balcony appearance continued, there were moments of quiet reflection as well. King Charles occasionally glanced toward the palace gardens, taking in the view and the organized crowd below. The sight seemed to remind him of the long history of public engagement that the palace had witnessed over centuries. The connection between the present moment and the broader historical narrative was evident in his demeanor. He was not merely performing a ceremonial role. He was participating in a living tradition, one that had shaped and been shaped by generations of leaders and citizens alike. The crowd, meanwhile, remained fully engaged. Conversations flowed around shared observations, excitement, and stories from previous royal events. Families discussed the history of the monarchy, children learned about the significance of certain gestures, and strangers exchanged smiles, united by a moment that transcended individual differences. The collective energy of the crowd, combined with the disciplined elegance of the royals, created a rare and remarkable atmosphere, one that was ceremonial yet deeply human. Even as the formal appearance concluded, the sense of connection lingered. King Charles and the royals slowly stepped back from the edge of the balcony, maintaining grace and composure. They shared quiet smiles and nods with each other, reflecting both the relief and satisfaction that the public interaction had been successful. Observers in the crowd responded with lingering applause, cheering, and waving, savoring the final moments of this historic engagement. The balcony appearance was not just a display of tradition, it was a moment of unity. It bridged generations, brought together people of all backgrounds, and reminded everyone present of the shared history and cultural significance of the monarchy. It was ceremonial, yes, but also deeply personal. A reminder that leadership and legacy are lived experiences, shaped as much by interaction and presence as by formal roles and responsibilities. As the royals returned inside the palace, the crowd slowly began to disperse, carrying with them the memory of what they had witnessed. Conversations buzzed with excitement, photographs and videos were shared eagerly, and children chattered about the flags, the music, and the smiles of the royals. The event had left an indelible mark, creating a sense of participation in history that would last for years. Observers understood that they had seen more than a ceremony. They had glimpsed the human side of tradition, connection, and legacy. In those final moments, it became clear that the balcony appearance was a culmination of preparation, tradition, and human connection. Every gesture, every wave, every glance had meaning. The royals had successfully balanced the demands of public engagement with the dignity of their role, and the crowd had responded with enthusiasm, respect, and admiration. The energy, the emotion, and the historical weight of the moment combined to create a lasting impression, one that would be remembered by all who were fortunate enough to witness it. After the excitement of the public appearance on the balcony, King Charles and the royal family retreated to the quieter, private areas of Buckingham Palace. The grand halls, which earlier had been filled with formal ceremony and attentive staff, now offered a moment of calm and reflection. For the king, this was a time to process the significance of the day. The hundreds of people who had gathered outside, the waves and cheers, the history that had been witnessed, and the responsibility that came with leading a nation steeped in centuries of tradition. As they moved through the palace, King Charles walked with a steady, thoughtful pace. The floors beneath him gleamed, reflecting the warm light from the tall windows. The portraits of past monarchs seemed to watch silently, their painted eyes a reminder of the legacy he now carried. Each painting told a story of leadership, challenges, and dedication. The king's expression showed a mixture of respect, contemplation, and quiet determination. He was aware that his role was not only ceremonial, but also deeply personal, a continuation of a lineage that shaped the country's history and identity. Other members of the royal family moved beside him, offering support and sharing moments of quiet conversation. These interactions were small, often a brief smile or a soft word, yet they carried meaning. Family members understood the weight of the day, the balance between public duty and personal responsibility. Together, they reflected the unity and strength that had always defined their family, demonstrating that even in the midst of public life, private bonds were vital. Staff and advisors moved alongside the royals, ensuring that every step was orderly and efficient. Courtiers arranged documents, checked schedules, and discreetly guided the family through the palace. Though the attention of the world had shifted momentarily to the public appearance, the behind-the-scenes work remained critical. Every detail, no matter how small, contributed to the success of the day. The seamless coordination allowed the royals to focus on their role, their family, and their personal reflections without distraction. In a quiet sitting room overlooking the gardens, King Charles paused. The palace gardens stretched out like a carefully maintained tapestry, their symmetrical paths, vibrant flower beds, and ancient trees offering a serene contrast to the bustling streets outside. The sight seemed to invite contemplation, a moment to breathe and take in the enormity of what had just occurred. He reflected on the faces in the crowd, the cheering children, the waving flags, and the moments of connection that had made the public appearance so meaningful. Each smile and wave had left an impression, a reminder that leadership was about more than ceremony. It was about connection and shared history. Other members of the royal family gathered nearby, quietly discussing the day's events. Conversations were soft, respectful, and sometimes punctuated by laughter or thoughtful nods. They spoke of the significance of the moment, not just as a public engagement, but as a chapter in the continuing story of the monarchy. These private reflections offered perspective, helping the family understand their role in a broader context. They were part of a lineage, a living history that connected the past with the present and the future. King Charles took a moment to consider the broader meaning of the day. The balcony appearance, the cheers of the crowd, and the historical weight of Buckingham Palace all combined to create a unique experience. It was a reminder that monarchy was not merely about power or tradition. It was about responsibility, service, and the ability to inspire. Each gesture, each interaction, each acknowledgement carried significance. The king's reflections highlighted a deep understanding of the delicate balance between public perception and personal conviction, a balance that had guided successful leaders throughout history. The royal family also took time to recognize the work of the staff and advisors who had made the day possible. Courtiers, security personnel, and palace staff had coordinated with precision, ensuring that every element of the event flowed seamlessly. King Charles personally acknowledged their dedication, expressing gratitude for their professionalism and attention to detail. These gestures reinforced the importance of collaboration, reminding everyone involved that the monarchy's success depended on both visible and invisible efforts. As the day progressed, the family gathered in one of the palace's private lounges. Soft lighting and plush furnishings created a comfortable environment, allowing moments of quiet conversation and reflection. Discussions ranged from the history of the monarchy to the reactions of the crowd, and even to personal thoughts about the significance of leadership. King Charles listened attentively, offering insights and sharing his perspective. These interactions, though private, were a continuation of the public narrative, a reminder that monarchy is shaped by both ceremonial presence and thoughtful consideration. Outside, the streets of London began to return to their usual rhythm. The crowd, though dispersed, continued to share stories and images of the day. Conversations buzzed with excitement as people recounted the balcony appearance, the expressions of the royals, and the collective experience of witnessing history. Families reflected on the importance of the event, and children asked questions about what they had seen. The day had left a lasting impression, creating memories that would be shared for generations. The king and his family also considered the symbolic importance of the event. Buckingham Palace, a site of centuries of tradition, had once again played host to a moment that combined ceremony, history, and personal connection. The balcony, the courtyards, and the halls were not merely physical spaces. They were living symbols of continuity, resilience, and identity. Each gesture, each wave, and each thoughtful smile reinforced the values that the monarchy represented: unity, service, and the ability to inspire collective pride. King Charles spent time reflecting on the broader responsibilities that lay ahead. Leadership was not simply about public appearances or ceremonial duties. It was about making decisions, guiding a nation, and upholding traditions while adapting to contemporary challenges. The balcony appearance had been a reminder of the connection between the monarchy and the people, highlighting the importance of accessibility, empathy, and thoughtful engagement. These reflections emphasized the human dimension of leadership, illustrating that even in moments of grandeur, humility and awareness remained essential. The family also took time to consider the personal lessons of the day. The excitement of the crowd, the meticulous planning of the palace staff, and the historical significance of the location all combined to create an experience that was both awe-inspiring and humbling. King Charles recognized that every action, however small, contributed to the perception and impact of the monarchy. From a simple nod to a child in the crowd to the carefully rehearsed steps across a balcony, each detail carried weight. The day had been a masterclass in balancing public expectation with personal integrity. As the afternoon progressed, the royal family gathered for a quiet moment of gratitude. King Charles expressed his appreciation for the continuity of the monarchy, the dedication of the staff, and the support of the public. These reflections reinforced the broader significance of the event, not just as a ceremonial occasion, but as a moment that celebrated history, community, and shared experience. The family recognized that they were part of something larger than themselves, a living institution that connected the past with the present and the future. Finally, the family took a moment to look toward the future. The events of the day had been a reminder that the monarchy was not static. It evolved with time, guided by tradition, but informed by contemporary values. King Charles understood that his role was to maintain continuity while inspiring progress, honoring history while engaging meaningfully with the present. These reflections underscored the enduring nature of leadership and the importance of thoughtful action in shaping legacy. As the day drew to a close, the palace returned to its quiet state. The staff began to tidy the spaces used for the ceremony and the reception, ensuring that everything remained immaculate. The halls, which had been alive with activity and anticipation, now reflected calm and order. King Charles and the royal family retreated to private quarters, carrying with them memories of the day, reflections on their responsibilities, and a renewed sense of purpose. The public, meanwhile, continued to discuss the significance of the day. Stories of the balcony appearance, the gestures of the royals, and the historical symbolism of Buckingham Palace spread through homes, schools, and workplaces. People shared photographs, videos, and personal accounts, ensuring that the experience would be remembered long after the event concluded. The day had become a part of living history, bridging generations and creating a shared narrative of pride, unity, and cultural identity. In the quiet of the evening, King Charles reflected one final time. The balcony, the crowd, the palace halls, all had contributed to a profound understanding of leadership, legacy, and the human dimension of public life. He recognized that the events of the day were both a celebration and a responsibility, a reminder that the monarchy was shaped by tradition, service, and meaningful engagement with the people. These reflections offered clarity, purpose, and a renewed commitment to the duties that lay ahead. The legacy of the day would endure. For those who had witnessed the balcony appearance, for the staff who ensured every detail ran smoothly, and for the royal family who balanced personal and public life with grace, the event became a symbol of continuity, connection, and historical significance. It was a day that reminded everyone involved of the enduring power of tradition, the importance of human connection, and the shared experience of witnessing history in motion. As night fell over London, Buckingham Palace stood quietly, its walls echoing with the memories of the day. The grandeur and elegance of the palace had hosted a moment that combined history, ceremony, and human emotion. King Charles and the royal family had fulfilled their roles with dignity, grace, and thoughtfulness. The events of the day, marked by preparation, anticipation, connection, and reflection, would remain in the hearts and minds of all who experienced them, a testament to the enduring significance of monarchy and the living story of leadership, service, and legacy.